All right, we finished this module, and I'm going to leave you guys with a comforting message and just a different perspective, hoping that if you guys feel overwhelmed or you're like, gosh, there's a lot of info here and I'm struggling to put it all together, take your time, please. I promise this is just part of the process. I've said it a million times before, but you have to fall in love with this process instead of falling in love with the result. But I'm going to give a comforting message here that really comforted me when I heard it. I have to give all the credit to Ed Mylett. If you guys don't know who Ed Mylett is, I highly recommend you listen to the Ed Mylett Show podcast on all your podcast outlets. He's an amazing businessman and a very inspiring person in helping us understand this process and this journey that we're on. Like I always say, the content is the hardest part. And when you guys are developing a business and trying to figure all these different things out and putting together the nuts and bolts, and it just feels really overwhelming, I want you guys to know you're in the right place. And feeling this discomfort and feeling like you're pushing through different boundaries is all part of it. And there's no growth in comfortability. But when I heard this message about mastering the skill in these 3 phases, it really hit home for me. And it's something that it's a presentation that you just can't get out of your mind when you hear it. And so I wanted to share this, but I highly recommend you guys listen to the full episode. And like I said, I will share it below so that you can really hear it from the horse's mouth because he delivers it better than I ever could. But I wanted to make sure I included this because it really did help me in my trying times. And it still helps me to this day because I feel like I'm working through this process, all the time. Every week there's something new to master, and we're never perfect at it when we start. We're never perfect at it ever. But we go through these phases and they're completely normal, and it shows that we're actually making movement even though it doesn't feel like it. So the first phase in mastering any skill is the awkward phase. I'm going to use a serving reference like he did. And it's relatable to me because I was in the serving industry, and I know it can probably be relatable to a lot of you guys. And it's just an easy reference. But I want you guys to think in the back of your mind to any skill that you're trying to master right now, the same process goes for every skill we ever try to learn. And we start off in the awkward phase. We're so uncomfortable. We have no idea what we're doing. We're making mistakes left and right. We don't feel like we're making any movement. We don't feel like we're covering any ground or making any milestones. We just feel stagnant. Nothing feels like it's working. And for him, when he was talking about the service industry, he was like, I was a brand new server. I had no idea. I had no idea how to roll silverware. I was so nervous talking to new customers that came in. I was getting their orders wrong. I didn't know how to communicate to the staff in the back. I didn't know how to run their credit cards correctly. I was nervous. I was awkward. I was so uncomfortable. I had no clue what I was doing. But he had to realize throughout those mistakes and throughout that process, he had to embrace his discomfort, step out of his comfort zone, embrace the awkwardness, understand that that's where the growth starts in the first place. He had to embrace making mistakes. And then he had to realize that's all part of building the foundation. That's what this whole opportunity and course is about, is building the foundations. Because if you grow exponentially, unexpectedly, and you don't have a solid foundation underneath you, it doesn't matter in the first place. So we have to stop shooting for this immediate growth or this fast success because it's fleeting if you don't have the foundation built. But I'm sure we can all relate to the idea of serving. If you've been in the service industry, you know, at first it starts off really uncomfortable. And that's the same for any skill we try to learn, especially content creation. But then a couple weeks go by and he's like, okay, I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get comfortable talking to people. My communication is better. I'm rolling silverware faster than I thought. Way faster than I did in the beginning. I'm starting to put in their credit card numbers correctly. I'm starting to understand how to order food. I'm starting to understand the menu. Now I feel like a little bit more robotic. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting it a little bit more. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. I'm refining my techniques. I'm following the path. I'm following the strategies that were taught to me. I'm integrating them into my life. I'm getting it. I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to form relationships in the staff, and I'm starting to make friends with different servers. I'm understanding the process a little bit better. I'm not great at it yet. I'm not really making any moves. I'm not really making any ground. It doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. It doesn't feel like I'm getting a lot of results, but I'm understanding it a little bit more. And most people quit in this phase. Most people go through the mechanical phase and they're like, okay, I'm getting it, but I'm still not getting any traction. So it's just like, I'm done. It's not meant for me. I can't do it anymore. but they quit right before they get to the natural phase. And this is the flow state. This is where the money is made. This is where the success is made. This is where the breakthrough happens. And people look at you on the other side of the screen or the other side of the table and they're like, man, he's a natural. She's a natural. Well, she wasn't born that way. She had to go through the 3 phases first. He wasn't born that way. He had to go through the 3 phases first. He just didn't give up after it got awkward. He didn't give up after it got mechanical. He kept moving. And now you're like running around to different tables and you're folding silverware 10 times faster than you did when you started. You're serving 10 tables more than you started. You can handle a lot more. You're making more money. You're making more tips. You're successful. You're getting good reviews from customers because you're so great at communicating with them. You're great at what you do. And it's the same thing with content. People will look at others and be like, man, gosh, she's such a natural, and think that they were just born that way, but they're not. No one ever is. Even if we're born with a proclivity for something, maybe you were born and you're like, I knew I was supposed to be a singer. I just love singing ever since I was 2 years old. And I knew I was going to be an amazing singer and sing on American Idol one day. Well, no. You might have loved singing, but from age 3 to 25, you were taking singing classes every week. You were learning from experts in your field. You were implementing their strategies and their tools and their tips and tricks. And you kept going week after week after week. You kept practicing and practicing and practicing to the point where you could go on American Idol and get to the top 4. Whatever the case is, you had to perfect your craft along the way. But too many people give up before they ever get to the natural phase, not realizing these 3 steps. And they convince themselves, oh, it's just not meant for me. Business is too hard. It's not meant for me. But they never worked through. And I think the most powerful thing is to be aware of these 3 phases so you can be aware of where you're at. And you can know, okay, it's feeling mechanical. I'm starting to get a little bit more. I don't have much traction. I feel really stagnant. I'm not making any results. Not making any money. Keep pushing through. It's all about the journey. And when you get to this natural phase, you will know it. Things will click. Things will start to come together. Money will start to be made. And throughout this whole process, you guys are going to have to pivot. I always say pivot, don't quit. On a macro perspective, you never quit. But there are certain opportunities you might try. There are certain strategies you might try. There are certain products you might try to sell, and it just might not be best for you. You might be meant to do something different. So you pivot, you change course, you change direction, but you don't quit as a whole. You just learn from that and you apply it to the next thing you do. But also having the self-awareness to know when it's quitting too early, a certain opportunity too early, or moving in a certain direction too soon before you've given yourself time to go through these phases. It's self-awareness, you guys. It's so vital. But more importantly, it's the self-awareness of these 3 phases and understanding where you're at in the process. Give yourself as much time as you need to go through these 3 phases because it takes a different amount of time for every single person. But I promise you, it's worth working through to get to this natural phase because that's when everything starts to come together. That's when the magic happens. That's where you see everything pay off. And every single person is capable of going through these 3 phases and getting to that natural phase. You just have to work through it. And you have to be consistent every single day to get yourself there. So I hope this helps. I hope you guys know that everyone starts off awkward. Everyone starts off feeling uncomfortable. Everyone starts off bad. No one starts off in the natural phase. Every single person has to work through those 3 steps to get there in the first place. I'll see you guys on the next module, and I hope this helps.